The pandemic has certainly upended education and society as a whole, but it has also created an opportunity for us to not just manage the current situation, but to actually identify a new pathway forward. In a recent paper we did, Education Reimagined, the Future of Learning, we began to capture what was happening across the globe, but also what might help us build a better future. As we begin to reopen, it's clear that there is no blueprint, but we need to view our decisions through three lenses: that of equity, well-being, and quality learning. We know that context really matters. Reopening is going to demand flexibility, contextual, and social intelligence. We see that there are four key areas that are going to need action. The first is to be mindful of well-being. The second, to reflect on what we've learned during this time so that we don't revert to the status quo, but we move forward. Third, of course, to manage those safety and operational issues. But finally, and most importantly, to lead the learning agenda. So first, let's look at well-being. We must recognize that not everyone has been okay. Issues of food insecurity, unemployment, homelessness, and many other issues have really shaken lives. Rushing to address academic needs without recognizing the trauma and well-being needs will only make a difficult situation worse. This statement here, emotion is the gatekeeper of cognition and attention. We know that they are intertwined. If students are not feeling safe and that they belong and that they're cared for, they will not learn, no matter what we do. So therefore, job number one is to create that culture of learning where students do feel safe and connected, where they feel that stability, that they are valued, that they matter. But it's not just the students that we need to be mindful of. We need to be paying attention to the adults as well, because we've all been affected by this in so many ways. We're all on a different journey, and we don't know what each other has been experiencing. We may not always be our best selves because there are many other things operating in our lifetimes. We need very much to listen to one another and then to listen again so that we're really hearing what people need and how they're feeling. We need to recognize that well-being is not a fixed state for students or for the adults, and that we're going to need to be able to move through this phase together and really be responsive. As leaders and as teachers, we set the tone, or as our colleague Jean Clanton says, we create the weather in the classroom. So in doing so, we need to be kind to ourselves. This is a time for great empathy for our own personal selves, for our students, for our parents, as we move forward into the unknown. So the first step in how we do that is to really reflect on what we have learned so far. It's to understand where we've been, and we think the best way to take that pulse is through a formal reflective process where we take a look at what we've learned about ourselves, what we've learned about learning, what we've learned about our students during this time, and about technology, because it will be part of moving forward. You can see here on the screen that we portrayed it as a Venn, because safety and operation issues are at top of mind. They're important. At the same time, learning has to be our priority. But as we looked at how we were going to tackle this and to support people in doing so, we realized that connecting those was well-being, and that is the bridge. And that if we do not address that, we cannot address either part of that Venn diagram. And so as we look at how we reflect, we suggested just 12 questions that we thought might get people started. And we need to keep some things in mind. First of all, being sure that we are viewing those particular questions through the lenses, as I've said before, of well-being, equity, and quality learning, because our response will depend on our frame of reference. Secondly, to find a way to hear all the voices. How can we go through this process and hear from our students, from our parents, from other staff, and from community? Remember, our students have a lot to tell us about what has worked and what didn't work. And our parents are new partners. Thirdly, we need to take an appreciative stance, not a deficit model. We need to empower learning and our learners. So we need to start by looking at who did well and what helped them do well, and then take those skills and be intentional about them in the future. And finally, we want to foster deeper relations by having everyone engaged in this process, not only to reflect, but also to move forward. And we suggest that we start thinking about our teachers as leaders in the process, as our parents as partners in this process, and as our students as change agents. Now, managing safety and operations is the elephant in every room these days. It's complex, it's overwhelming, the situation is very fluid. There are many other checklists that you can look at, but we realized that we would be missing a golden opportunity if all we thought about were hand sanitizers and one-way hallways. So rather, what's really crucial is that we lead the learning. We don't want to slide back to the status quo. We have a rare chance to reflect and to innovate. The pandemic has served as a nudge to be even better than we were before. And it's also pointed out those areas in which we were missing the mark, especially around equity and some of the quality learning that we could be providing. So we need to examine and challenge some of those practices that are etched into our culture and focus on well-being, equity, and quality. Creating learning that is meaningful, that is purposeful, that is authentic, that builds students' voice, choice, and agency. And if we do that, we will tackle well-being, equity, and quality learning, and we will help our students be ready to engage the world, change the world.